honey badgers. So I just wanted to put a little bit of an edit note on the beginning of this video that you're watching now. So just a few hours ago, I attempted taping my first WIP Chat, and God, Mother Mary help me, it was rough. Not the actual process, but just what I came away with. It was a lot of footage, and I didn't mean for it to be. It was just the squirrel on the bird feeder in my brain just kept running away with stuff, and I would start on one idea and then it would veer me off into something else, and then I would realize that I veered off and I would try to bring it back and then it would veer off again. And so long story short, I'm still trying to find my rhythm in the whole WIP Chat world. I know those can be pretty popular with a lot of people because they like to, have something to listen to while they're working on their own stuff. And I would like it to be a feature on this channel, but I'm still figuring out how that's going to go, what my rhythm's going to be. So yeah, the uncut footage of this, I think it ran nearly an hour and a half. It was a bit much. So yeah, I'm gonna cut that down. I'm gonna cut a lot of it out, probably. It could still end up being kind of lengthy, I guess, because there were some points in there where I was like, oh, that's a good point. Huh. Rather proud of myself. It happens momentarily here and there. See, lost my train of thought again. So yeah, I'm gonna have to cut that down. So Lord knows what this is gonna end up looking like at the end of all this. But if you make it to the end of this video, blessings on you and your family, because you're a real one. So yeah, thanks for watching, and we will see you at the end of this, I guess. Bye, guys. Hey, honey badgers, it's Angie. I have a new setup I'm trying here. I have one of those hands-free stands for the phone, so I haven't used one of these before, so I'm gonna try it. I know holding the phone kind of bugs some people, but I'm learning these things as I go. And I've been wanting to try this whole like WIP Chat idea. I just was unsure about the setup. So I figured I would try it on something simple like this, just to sort of get a feel for this stand and the handle and all of that. And there is something I wanted to bring up to you guys, sort of new business venture I'm going out on here. But I'll talk about that in a second. I've done little clips here and there, if you follow me on Instagram, about when I work on what I call my art desk here, and I show little clips about how I do things. You can kind of see things in the background, since we're all sort of learning each other here. If you see this in the background, this is my wax tin for when I multi-place. I just put little squares in there and refill as necessary. So that's what the Mickey is. When I have this in the background, I have like a whole system going here. These are drills that are still what I would say mostly usable, but they might have a little bit of a ding or something in them. So typically what I do with the ones in here is they get transferred into jewelry making or other art projects. So that's what that container is. And then my, where'd it go? Oh, here it goes. My full-on trash, where it's just like bits of plastic and garbage and whatever, that goes in Elsa. Well, not in Elsa. Elsa's flower here. That's what that is. When I'm doing crystal projects like this here, which I haven't actually done a crystal project in a little while, I typically use tweezers. Most of my projects that you see where I do full drill, I will multi-place. It took me a little bit to get the feel of multi-placing, but I definitely prefer it now. So I typically multi-place on a lot of those, but with crystals, I'll either use single placing tweezers or wax pencils. This is not a pretty placer. Most of you can probably tell. This is just the generic ones you can find on like AliExpress, Amazon. Anyone that's interested, I haven't bought these in a while, but I'll try to find a link and put it down below for anyone that just wants the basic wax pencil. I know pretty placers are really popular in the diamond painting community. I specifically, just for myself, I get why they're popular, but for myself, for what I do, I don't really need my pencils to smell nice. I'm fine with just the wax pencil. Oh, that makes me think of something, by the way, since we're just sitting here chatting. Have any of you seen that commercial that's popped up recently? It's a women's shaving company. It's for one of the women's shavers, where I was weirded out by this. They said that their new gimmick shtick thing is they scented the handle. And I can't figure out why they would think we would need that. Why would I be in the shower sniffing the handle of my razor? That's freaking weird. I don't need the handle scented. I need the what do you call it? I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name of it. The cut guard thing, the moisturizing strip. I need that to not fall out so easily on my razor when I go to shave my legs and stuff. That would be a great tool if you want to work on that quality. I don't really need the handle to smell. I saw that in a commercial that popped up the other day. I just thought that was really weird. Has anybody else seen that? Yeah. But anyway, talking about the pretty placers and the wax pencils and all that. Another thing I saw recently was this trick that somebody had mentioned about, like, if you need a single placer but maybe don't have wax on hand or don't have a pretty placer or whatever, that you could just use a basic crayon. I've never actually used that technique before. I could see why it would work. I mean, it should work. It's wax. But I figured, since I'd never tried it before, maybe I could try to dig up a crayon and see if we could try it here right now. But then I was like, do I still have crayons in my art supplies? I haven't busted out a crayon in I don't know how long, but I figured I probably still had some somewhere, because I don't do it a lot recently, but I used to do a lot of sketching as a hobby, and I would do a lot of like coloring, and with I used to do the technique where you would like color it and then erase it off and then put something else over it, like a ink pen or something like that, to create like coloring effects and stuff. I haven't actually done any of that in a while, so I don't even remember if I had my crayons. So I went and looked through all my art supplies, and I totally forgot I had this. This is my crayon box from when I was a kid. I'm not from the early 1900s, by the way. I am from the early 1980s, but not the early 1900s. But yeah, this is a collector's tin that my parents got me one Christmas, but it looks like this because it's the collector's tin. So on the sides, it has like when the company started, 1885, and then 1903, and then 1958, which is probably around the time my parents were getting their crayons, and then can we get it in frame? There we go, 1990, which is probably around the time my parents got me this. I don't remember exactly what year it was. But yeah, my beat up tin from when I was a kid that I used to like throw in my backpack and stuff. I dug a crayon out of there. Had to dust them off a little bit. So I figured on this butterfly here, maybe we could try the crayon trick and see what happens. Hopefully these crayons aren't too ancient for this to work. So yeah, I don't think you're supposed to do anything special to it. I think you can just pick it up, apparently. So let's just see here. Okay, does pick it. Yeah, look at that. Hopefully that caught it on camera. Let's see. Well, yeah, it's still on there. it's not a technique I use, so I'm a little like weirded by it. But yeah, it seems to be working. So there you go. If you're short on supplies and you run out of wax or something, you know, go go steal a crayon from your kid or your little brother, or whoever you got around you. If you're in a daycare, maybe. Just make sure you put them back, because they might need that color one time and they'll be like, where is the goldenrod? So yeah, I figured I would just do a quick little chat here. I'm going to try to look up every so often and make sure my camera doesn't shut off. I don't think it is. Okay. It's been doing that lately. Where it just like sort of is like, oh yeah, we're good. We've done enough here. And it just shuts off. So there might be some cuts in here where I have to like go piece things back together, but I'll keep an eye on the timer and make sure it's still running. So there you go. We just finished the butterfly with the random crayon trick. Way to go, 1990s crayons. Apparently they don't go bad. Yeah, so what was I gonna do here? Okay, and I figured, since, you know, with the videos I've done, I've mentioned that shades of green being my favorite color. Specifically, I would say Kelly green is probably my favorite. Kelly green, grass green, that kind of green family. Am I in 4? Yeah, okay. This is one of those ones that doesn't have any DMC or anything. It's just match the number. So I did a few already, just because those ones were those like dark color, dark symbol ones that were a little bit harder to see. So I just wanted to get those out of the way so that when I'm talking, I don't have to like really focus on those. The rest of these I can kind of just drill out. So what was I saying? Oh, the color family. I like all greens, but I would say probably my favorites would be in like the Kelly green, grass green, you know, jewel tone green area. Also really like mint green, but you know, all the greens. I just find, you know, I don't know, that's just seems to be the color that's always made me happiest. Also like royal blues, navy blues, that kind of thing. Also really like purple. And I have a thing with like stripes. I like color combinations in stripes, like blue and white, green and white. I don't know, for some reason I like the clean look of it. And I don't know why, but for some reason, whenever I see stripes in, I don't know, just like fashion or anything really, for some reason it gives me almost a nostalgic feeling. Like I don't know if maybe it's because I have a thing for history, and you know, I like fashion history and that kind of thing, so maybe it makes me nostalgic for a time I have never lived in. I forget what that term is. There's a term for it where you're like nostalgic for something you've never actually lived. There is an actual term for it. I'm just blanking on it right now. But maybe I get nostalgic for like, you know, the sort of late 1800s, early 1900s fashion. Not saying I would necessarily want to wear that every day, but there is a beauty to it I can appreciate. So maybe when I see that, maybe it's like it almost makes me nostalgic for the idea of like, oh, a day at the sea or something like that, or I don't know, maybe maybe it's just growing up with Tim Burton movies and, you know, watching Sweeney Todd too many times or something. Who knows where that stems from. But yeah, that's kind of the color style, color family I tend to like a lot. I know there's a lot of women on here that do diamond painting where they get really excited for pinks, and I don't mind pinks, but I don't lose my shit over it either. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is I'm working on putting together a new bit of work for myself. So for those who don't know, I mean, I've mentioned it here and there about living with autoimmune disease. I've been showing symptoms for a long time. I just didn't realize it. But I was officially diagnosed actually during the start of the pandemic. That was fun. So the short gist of it, for anyone that doesn't know, if you don't follow me on Instagram, where I've mentioned it here and there, I don't like to go into like a lot of detail all the time about it, just because I'm not really the type of person that once I get, you know, a diagnosis or something, I don't want that to be my entire personality. I mean, this is, I do have, from what the doctors have told me, I do have a congenital, well, it's a combination of various congenital autoimmune diseases where basically I already had the coding in my system from my parents, and it just decided to rear its head little by little. And because I didn't know, and the doctors didn't know necessarily what to look for, it took some time for somebody to spot the diagnosis officially. So the big symptoms started showing up around I think when I was about 34, 35-ish. That's when I started getting mysterious swellings in my legs and pains and things like that. And I didn't know, and it grew kind of rapidly, actually. All of a sudden, I had trouble controlling my weight, and I was getting all this like extra fluid in my body, and all these things were happening, and I was having more and more issues with joint pain and brain fog, and it was just getting out of hand. And I had started going to the doctors, and a lot of the doctors, they kept looking for stuff. They tested me for freaking everything, and all my tests kept coming back, no, you're fine, you're normal, everything looks great, you can't find anything. And I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on, because I was going home in a lot of pain all the time. And it took until the start of the pandemic, so that was 2020, for some doctor I went to finally say, and they didn't know for sure at first, they put forth the idea this could be autoimmune related, we don't know. And so I was seeing more and more specialists, and then finally I went to one of the other specialists they recommended, and I walked into the specialist's office, and she sat down in this exam room, and it was one of those exams where basically they ask you to strip down and look at everything. And I went through this long ass questionnaire with her and spent a good portion of the day and doing all this other stuff. And she was nodding and writing all this stuff down in her notebook, and she was like, well, I would say you would probably want a little bit more confirmation, but I'm pretty secure in telling you what this is. And she gave me a whole rundown of what it was, and I had one of those epiphany moments where all of these little things that I had fought with all my life suddenly made sense. And no, it wasn't fibromyalgia. Not to knock people that have fibromyalgia. My stance on, and I'm somebody that has worked in the medical field, my stance on fibromyalgia is not that it doesn't exist. I feel like doctors lean on it too much, especially for women, Caucasian women, especially in their, I'd say like 25 to 50 range. That seems to be the large number of women that get that diagnosis. And the way I read it with fibromyalgia is that I feel like there are a lot of doctors out there who stamp that on a woman. And I'm not saying, like, there are also men that are diagnosed with it, but I see a lot of doctors that seem to use it as a quick get them in, get them out diagnosis, where they say, okay, they have mystery nerve pain. We don't know what it's coming from. We'll call it fibromyalgia. And so my stance on that is that I completely believe that people have undetermined nerve pain, but what I feel like is the doctors aren't digging deep enough. I feel like everything has a source somewhere. And I feel like if you just stop at fibromyalgia, it's, to me, in my opinion, it's doing the patient a disservice, because I feel like there are better treatments out there. But a lot of people get hung up on, oh, it's just mystery nerve pain, and they'll just throw a bunch of drugs at them. And then there's a bunch of women that are just out there saying, oh, I have fibromyalgia, and there's nothing I can do about it. But there might be. So what I did in my case is I was really fearful that I was going to get dismissed with that. So I flat out told my doctor, I don't want to stop there. I don't think it's just mystery nerve pain. I think there's something deeper here. Please keep looking. And I kept being an advocate for that. In my gut, I felt like there was something here. I need you to keep digging. And so doctors kept digging, and that's how I ended up with the specialist that ultimately came back and said, you are showing casebook signs of this, this, and this. So what they came back with is that I have a combination of congenital forms of lymphedema tarda, which is, congenital lymphedema, but it doesn't largely show symptoms until about 34, 35, roughly, from the cases they know of. There's not a lot known about this form of lymphedema. From what I was told, it affects about 10% of the entire world population. And there's not a lot of case studies out there. From what I've read up, most of the case studies they have, for some reason, have come from the UK. There doesn't seem to be a lot of information about it here in the States. So a lot of times where I go, doctors kind of treat me as a guinea pig and just sort of use similar treatments to what they would do with other lymphedema patients. So I have lymphedema tarda combined with a congenital form of lipedema, which is, in my case, what it does is it's these, it is fatty tissue, but it's combined with what is basically a development of benign tumors wrapped up in there. And so it makes it very difficult for that particular type of fat tissue to be broken down. I had doctors tell me that it was near impossible. It might be, but I worked my ass off and I dropped about 60 pounds off my body from the time I was diagnosed to now. And it's so if you get a lot of people that you hear online where they're just, I see it a lot in the fat acceptance community. There's a lot of women I've seen that have said, they got diagnosed with lymphedema and it is what it is, and this is my body now. And I want to say it doesn't have to be, though. You do have to do a fuck ton of work, but you can get the weight off. You just have to be able to endure a little bit of discomfort. Because I'm not saying this, God, I just completely stopped working on this, didn't I? Anyway, let me get back to this. I'm not saying this to be like, this is what I did and it works for everybody. I'm just saying that there could be a system out there for you. I guess my thing is I'm trying to encourage people to not give up on your body. If that is not the body you want to live with, don't give up on your body. In my case, that's where I went into it with. I had doctors telling me, just get used to your body kind of looking like ass for the rest of your life. And I was like, I will not. And I went home and I had a lot of nights of crying, and, my marriage started falling apart. Not just from that, but that played a part in it. Because, unfortunately, the guy I was married to does not like conflict and difficult things. He also does not like a lot of money being spent on things. And, you know, there's a lot of hardship and a lot of expense that comes with having a combination of autoimmune diseases that I can't really do a lot about. So, you know, it took a toll on a relationship that, you know, frankly, now that I've sat with it, I realize if it was that easy to break, you know, it was probably coming down the pike anyway. But anyway, I had a lot of days, and I still have them every once in a while, where I feel like really gross in my body, and I feel very like, you know, oh, I'm, you know, I'm just this monster that everybody has to look at, because, you know, it does change your skin. It does change the way you move around in your body. There are a lot of things that I can't do the same way anymore, because, you know, with each year, it does mess with stuff internally. And the other thing that they found, the third thing, is that they said right now they're calling it generalized hypermobility syndrome. I'm showing signs of that. I haven't gone through the full testing to see if it's officially Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, but they did do the initial scale test on me, where they go through some of the symptoms and see if it's a 9-point scale to see if you have enough issues for them to even test. Basically, if you're like a 4, I think if you're 4 or under, they're not too concerned. It's probably not Ehlers. But I scored a 5 the first time around, and as I've looked into other common symptoms of Ehlers-Danlos, and there's also different types, different degrees of Ehlers-Danlos, from what I understand. My doctors are still recommending for me to go through the rest of the testing at some point. So I don't know. It could be that. Again, it's like the expense and time and all of that to finish the testing. There's a lot that goes into this combination of stuff. You know, all of a sudden you have to deal with neurologists looking at you and all kinds of stuff. I already went through a slew of specialists looking all over my body and having all kinds of scans and ultrasounds and stuff done, and it's exhausting, and it's not that much fun to shoulder on your own. You know, it is the kind of thing where ideally you would like a, you know, supremely supportive life partner to sort of help you through this, but that ended up not being my gift. But that's okay. I can shoulder a lot. So, you know, you have yourself a little cry now and then. It's all good. Keep pushing. But all that to say, all of that stuff in my body combined, along with I also have another gift from my parents. I have a genetic form of hypertension, in that I can't just diet it away. We found that out when I was in my early 20s, and I was I went through a period where well, that's a whole other story, I guess, but basically I wasn't being very good to my body diet wise, and long story short, I got to a depressing point in my life where I was sort of tiptoeing around eating disorder territory, and I got myself really tiny, to the point where I looked really gaunt in the face, in my opinion. But as you might have heard from other people that have gone through that kind of period in their life. I did get a lot of compliments from people where they were like, oh my God, you're so skinny, you look amazing. Yeah, I got all that. But when I look back on pictures of myself from that point, I was like, holy shit, why is nobody saying anything? I was also struggling a lot financially at that point. Not that I'm, rolling in dough now, but just not great things going on in my life at that time. But even back then, I still had hypertension that was being treated. So yeah, when I get people that are just like, oh, you just have a shit diet, I'm like, oh, not actually. Diet's pretty stable, actually. I don't eat a lot of fast food. I might indulge every once in a while, but yeah, I don't really go to fast food a lot. I don't drink Cokes all the time. Again, it's kind of like a every once in a while thing, but my day-to-day food is pretty basic, normal stuff I cook myself, meals. And because I've lived with hypertension and stuff the majority of my adult life, I'm very hyper aware of like what goes into my food and what I can and can't eat. So that was already sort of part of my lifestyle long before I got diagnosed with all this other stuff. Gotta keep getting off topic. Okay, so all of that to say, I've gotten into a point in my life now where my body has weakened to the point where I can still day-to-day function around my house if I go slow and I'm mindful of what I'm doing, but I also have a lot of stuff that happens spur of the moment where I can fall suddenly. My joints can go out suddenly. I can have hand spasms, all kinds of weird stuff that happens day to day. Today I'm working with a spasm in my spine that showed up when I woke up. I don't really know what triggered that, but it's there now. And these little things happen, and it's just gotten to the point now where I just can't really do the common workforce jobs I used to do. So all of this has sort of put me, originally I saw it as sort of a bind, because I was like, okay, well, closing out my marriage, how am I going to support myself now? And yeah, I know there's like people that do, like medical billing and stuff like that, but I also I've done work like that before, and I know it mentally takes me to a place that makes me feel very soulless. And yeah, the bills are getting paid, but I hate my life kind of, and I don't really want to go down that road after going through a relationship ending and trying to rebuild my life and all of that. So I'm trying to look at it as, and I've always tried to be this type of person, I'm trying to look at it as, where is the gift in the hardship? That whole, where is the blessing in the lesson kind of thing. Because that was the way my mom was when I was growing up. That's the way she always tried to be. That's the way she always tries to raise us, is like, what's the learning experience here? How can we make our lives better from this? How can we make somebody else's life better from this? And so that's what I always try to go back to whenever I'm in a hard place. And so that kind of gave me the idea for starting this business I want to start, or this, at least like side work. I have bigger ideas for more stuff, but you gotta start with step one. Start small and build up to where you ultimately want to go. So I have bigger ideas, but I can't get there all at once. So step one, my idea is, I want to start, and this is sort of inspired by me watching a number of diamond painting channels where people have for various reasons, said things like, they get these canvases and I get the impression that they worked on them for like, I don't know, 20-30 minutes or something like that, or maybe less, or maybe a day, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, this didn't work out for me, so I chucked it in the trash. And it just kills me that I hear that so often and so quickly. This just went in the trash. And it just, it hurts my soul that so much stuff is just being chucked like that because something didn't work out right away. So I had the idea because I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, I don't have kids. I have OCD. I am not able to do like traditional work anymore. Let me try to offer, for anyone that's interested, you know how they have like teddy bear hospitals for kids where you can go send your toys to get fixed up, that kind of thing. I thought, what if I try to do that for diamond painting? Because I know I've heard from people that they get really excited about these canvases sometimes, and then they get really disappointed because of one little factor or something, like maybe the glue isn't quite right, or like I don't know, the color is off. Or the other thing I hear is like some people get into diamond painting, and some people get into it because, like, the common thing I've heard people say is they'll say something like, well, I'm not very creative, so I do diamond painting because I don't have to think about it. And then when the formula doesn't work quite the way they want, maybe they're not comfortable enough in themselves to sort of go rogue with it, like I've done on a lot of mine. And they panic and they're like, oh, okay, well, this is useless now, and they throw it away. So my thought was, if you have a canvas that you really love, the theme, the image, whatever you want to call it, if you really love it, you don't want to throw it away, but you don't know what to do with it, well, why don't you send it over to me? And let me see if I can salvage it for you. And yes, I would like this to be a paid service primarily, because these things take time. And, I have to use my creative toolbox in my brain to figure out, okay, how can we fix the problem? How can we salvage this for you? How can we make it amazing? If you want me to gem it up, if you want me to jazz it out, whatever we want to call it, I can do that. But I was just thinking, let's try to see if we can have an option other than just chucking it in the trash so quickly. It kills me to think of all the stuff that just will so swiftly end up in a landfill when maybe it doesn't have to. So, I hear this, like, people, they order like special order ones, where you it's not like a pre-made kit. It's one, maybe you send in a photo of something that's important to you, and maybe it's not working out quite how you want, and it's just giving you a headache or whatever. Well, let me see if I can manage that headache for you and turn it into something that you can be really ecstatic about. The other side of that, I was thinking, is if you have a canvas that you just, for whatever reason, you're just like, I don't want this. I don't want these things. And you just want to get rid of it. If you want to, I was thinking, like, maybe there could be like a donation program. If you want to donate it over here, what I could do is you can donate it so you can get it out of your hair. And then what I can do is, it's up to you if you want to do this part. If you have a business that you want to bring attention to, if you want to shout out for your social media, your YouTube channel, whatever, if you want to donate the canvas just to get it out of your hair. In return, I can give you a shout out when I go to do the canvas. And the other thing I thought is I could use the canvases that are donated as sort of teaching canvases or trial, let's learn new skills together kind of canvases where if there's a new technique I heard about or a new sealant or tool or something like that, we can use those canvases so that we're not using something that is really meaningful to somebody. If it gets messed up, it's okay. We're all learning kind of thing. So it can be sort of like, for lack of a better term, it can be sort of like classroom canvases for all of us to learn from. And like I said, in return, if you want to stay anonymous, that's fine. I'm not going to, make it weird for people. But if you want like a shout out for your business or your social media or whatever, you can let me know. And then there was something else I was thinking of. The other thing I was thinking of is if you want like a commissioned thing, if you have, let's say you're the type of person that's like, you really like diamond art, but you don't necessarily want to do the work. I have a lot of friends that are like that follow my social media where they love seeing the finishes, but they always tell me I could never put the time into that. I have so much better things to do with my time. And I respect that. I get it's not for everybody. I never try to like force this on people. It's like a lot of my friends, for some reason, a lot of my friends, like after they turned 30, I feel like everybody suddenly took up marathon running and ultra running and all this. Everybody turned into a runner all of a sudden, and I was the odd man out being like, yeah, that's not going to be my thing. Mainly because I had a lot of like, the hypermobility and all that. I just knew that was not going to be a good idea for me because I've already had multiple joint dislocations in my life. I know it's like when some of my friends got really into cold plunging, and I was like, I'm happy for you, but I can't do that because I later found out it's also probably tied to the hypermobility. I have really hypersensitive skin, and I've already survived hypothermia twice in my life. So in my particular instance, I know Wim Hof tries to sell that it's for everybody, and I try to sell that it is not. You should definitely talk to your doctor about if it's right for you. I know it does amazing things for a lot of people. I absolutely understand the benefits scientifically behind it, but I think it's dangerous to say it's absolutely 100% perfect for everybody. Because there's a lot of us out there that can seriously get hurt if you don't know your specific conditions. So that's just sort of like my version of, not forcing stuff on people, like know their story first. So yeah, like a bunch of my friends got really hyper into that. I mean, the other thing is, before my joints started getting really sick, I used to be a long distance hiker. My parents were big hikers. My dad was a Vietnam vet. He was also like a doomsdayer. So he was one of those guys that was like, some of you may be a little bit young to get this reference, but he was very concerned that Red Dawn, if you guys remember that movie, was going to happen any day. So from a very early age, my older brother and I were taking on these sort of expeditions out in the woods and taught survival skills. And, we got like ruck training early on. And my brother and I always had the joke about like, we don't remember enlisting, which is funny because like my brother actually went and joined the military in his 20s. So he actually did enlist. I did not. I did go into AmeriCorps, which is sort of the civilian American-based version of Peace Corps. I did do that for a time, but I did not join the military because, as I told my brother after growing up with my dad, I had no interest in being yelled at anymore in my life. So yeah, I did not have it in me to go through military stuff anymore. At least not stuff I willingly signed up for. But yeah, I went through a lot of like doomsday training, hiking and all that. But I did learn to like long distance hike at a very early age. And, you know, a lot of my friends are very much not into hiking. I'm trying, even with my joint and stuff, I'm still trying to get my legs back to where I can maybe do a little bit again, because it feels weird not to, you know, be able to be on trails anymore. So it's a goal that I would like to try to get back to at some point. I don't know that I could ever get back quite to the level I was doing before, where, you know, I was just bouncing through 6, 10, 12-mile hikes in a day. And being the bane of my friend's existence sometimes when I try to be like, yeah, let's go on a hike. So yeah, that's my long version of saying why I can understand why some things are not for everybody, and so I never try to force my interests on other people. And I'd make it more like, hey, it's here if you want to know about it. I'll try to share what I learn, because I'm watching other people learning from what they learn. And overall, I just want there to be like a sense of community, like a true sense of community. I don't want it to be like, you know, a social media thing, like we're all a family here, and then people ignore you or treat you like shit or whatever. Like, I got left alone a lot when I was growing up. So my brother is almost 6 years older than me, so he was out of the house pretty early. So I didn't really grow up with a lot of sibling interaction, and he's my only sibling. And my mom did most of the work. My dad had a lot of mental health issues. He was on disability a lot, all kinds of stuff. So I was sort of left to, you know, essentially raise myself for most of my childhood. So I didn't really get the family experience that I kept hoping for. I mean, my mom was there as much as she could be, but my mom had her own issues going on, and, you know, she was trying to keep a roof over everybody's head, and like there was a lot of complications when I was a kid. I do have good childhood memories. They're just scattered. But I think because I had a lot of hardship memories, I really cling to the good memories, because they're a lot more infrequent. If you guys wonder why, you know, sometimes when I do diamond painting unboxings and I talk about like nostalgia and, oh, this reminds me of this really nice thing from my childhood, it's because I don't have a lot of those things. I didn't grow up with a perfectly secure family life. But that said, I think, you know, my brother and I talk about this sometimes, and other people have pointed out that given what we did ultimately survive, we both came out relatively balanced people. Like, I don't yeah, I had to do a butt ton of therapy to get there, but like I dedicated myself to not being a big old mess of a human as much as I could be. You know, I want to be as stable as possible, and I don't want to be a victim of my circumstances, because I know a lot of people out there go through some heavy shit. So it's ultimately my goal to do my best to be as helpful as I can in the world, and try to show people that you can overcome hard things, you can do hard things, that you can survive all kinds of stuff. If you ultimately, if you just want to. I mean, I know that sounds very cliche and sort of simplified, but in a way it does come down to that. Like, do you want it? Do you want to be that person? And you just have to dedicate yourself to that regardless of what's going on. And yeah, if you dedicate yourself to that, I can almost guarantee you're going to have days that massively suck and you're going to cry a lot and you're going to get mad and life is going to feel unfair, but you got to push through all that, and ultimately you get over the hump and things are like, oh man, it makes sense now. It takes a while to get there, and a lot of times you probably have to restart yourself mentally, physically, spiritually. But you do get there. So that's sort of my idea behind all of this. One part of it is like, yes, I am going for the income stream because, one of the things that I sort of mentally struggled with over the course of my life is I've gotten better about it, but I have a lot of hang-ups that I think some of it probably stems just from the fact that I wasn't a planned child. And I didn't find that out till a little bit later in life. My mom just sort of blurted it out one day, and I didn't expect it to affect me as much as it did, but it did sort of shake me that this sense of like, oh, my brother was created out of love. I was just an oops. And my mom was religious and didn't believe in abortion. So here I am. And so I had a lot of hang-ups about that. And even before I knew that, I had these issues growing up that I didn't know quite what it stemmed from. But even as a little kid, I remember feeling like I was in the way, that people didn't want me around. They were always waiting for me to go away, that I was weird, that I was awkward. And even back then, I remember I was always trying to be the kid that was as helpful as possible, but I always got this sense from people of like, okay, you can go now. Almost as soon as I would walk into a room. It was weird. I did have friends growing up. It's just, it's always been a little bit of a struggle to, find all the individual members of my tribe. I've gotten better as I've gotten older, and I've gotten more comfortable in my skin and realized that, maybe some of that was true, but a lot of it was probably just in my head. And so part of that also kind of feeds into, going back to being helpful. That was sort of my drive for always trying to keep going in life and trying to create a sense of community and sort of like, a never-ending childhood in a way, I guess, a sense of that. I mean, obviously, you got to be an adult sometimes and pay your damn bills. And that's always part of it. Like, I guess I'm sort of like talking in circles here because I'm trying to like put it all into a way that makes sense while I'm also still trying to do this. I struggled a lot as a kid with a feeling of being a burden in the world. And I was really sensitive growing up to the fact that this is going to sound so like first world problems maybe, but I was not a kid that was told I was attractive a lot when I was growing up. People were always very weird about my looks. I got things that, people would say, oh, you're so kind, and oh, aren't you smart for your age, and oh, you're so funny, and things like that. I was not told. I don't know if it's like a girl thing. I don't know how much of it, I mean, I'm not a guy, so I don't know how much of an issue this is for guys, but it's just people were weird about that. And I know that part wasn't in my head because I was always waiting for people to say it, and it just never came up. Not even with my own parents. Like, my own mother said when I was, how old was I when she said, I think I was in my 20s. She was talking about my childhood, something. And she just said, Angie, I love you, but you went through an awkward period. And then she went on to tell me, like, you know, how weird my looks were growing up. And I was like, well, whose fault is that? Like, take it up with you and dad, man. Like, I didn't design this face. And what's awful is I harbored all of these uncomfortable feelings about my looks and stuff for so long. And as I've gotten older, you know, I've gone back and looked at pictures from when I was a kid, and it kind of pisses me off that I'm like, I was not that bad. Why was everybody so weird about my looks? I was not that bad. It's like people act like I had a third eye in the middle of my forehead or something, or, you know, fish scales or something. And I'm like, okay, like maybe I didn't look like a porcelain doll pretty, but like, fuck, you guys made me feel like I was hideous. I'm not kidding, guys. Like, this was even into like my 20s. I struggled with this sense of, and it still rears its head every once in a while, where I get this feeling of like, I feel apologetic for people that have to look at me. And it's very rare I get that feeling now. I mean, I'm not so caught up on myself where I'm just like, damn, aren't you hot all the time? Like, it doesn't happen like that. It's more like my headspace now is more like, this is my face and I'm okay with it. It doesn't bother me. And I'm not bothered if other people are bothered. Like, I'm much more comfortable with it. But for a long time, into like a lot of my adulthood and the majority of my childhood, I walked around with this sense of truly feeling sorry for people that had to look at me, because people were so weird about, you know, how as a kid, I walked around saying like, well, not saying, but thinking like, why can nobody just say I'm pretty sometimes? Even when they did pay me a compliment, it was never about the way I looked. It was always like maybe an outfit I wore where like, oh, that's a cute outfit. But like, I didn't really get like, oh my God, you're so pretty. Like, nobody would say it to my face about my face. And it wasn't until it started coming up more, you know, when I got into like dating years, and I got, you know, got into college, and guys were a little bit more accepting, and you know, I started growing into my looks more, and I also had a very much like, oh, give a fuck attitude, which seemed to turn a lot of guys on. So when I got more into college age, that started being less of an issue. I started meeting more and more guys that are like, yeah, I kind of like how this is working. But it's just, I've always struggled with that sense of like, where, and I know this is not unique to me, and most people have this problem, I think, on some degree, where it's like, where the hell is like my soul family, my tribe, whatever they call it these days. And as I've gotten older, I'm finding it more and more, like, you know, who my people are. I think just because you get older and it's more of you leaning into that, I don't give a fuck kind of mentality, it shows up more and more in you, and you become more and more attractive the more you embrace that, of like, look, this is who I am, okay? And, you know, I think that's when people are, regardless of what you look like, I think that's when they really, other people start observing you and going like, man, that person is sexy as hell. And it's not about their face. It's just about them just being like, this is what I am. This is what we're working with. And if it's an issue, you can go. So yeah, just having gone through all that myself, I want to develop a sense of comfortable community where, you know, you can be like, wherever you are in life, that's cool. You fit here. So yeah, that's it's a long ass story, I know. This thing's gonna go in circles. But it's my first WIP Chat, so I figured I would give you, the long background version, I guess. I'll probably edit the hell out of this. There's a lot where I kind of lost where I was going in thought, so I'll try to condense a lot of this and try to put it together where it makes more sense. But yeah, ultimately I want to get to that sense of community, whatever that ends up looking like. All of y'all fellow honey badgers. Yeah, I just want to start doing work that's like, obviously I want to get my bills paid, but also want to do stuff that's like beneficial for you guys too. That you can take away something from and have a good sense of community, and whatever I can do in my little corner of the world to make things less lonely and sad for people, because having been there, it kills me to think of like the people that are still stuck in that energy, and feel like they've got nobody to kind of alleviate that. So ultimately that's my goal, is to help create another little pocket of community for people where you can go and talk and have a laugh, because that's kind of my thing, is like I can be serious about stuff. I know how to take care of business when I need to, but for the most part I've seen enough garbage in my life and a lot of like heavy shit that the majority of my time, I mean, if you guys have followed me on Instagram and seen my stories and stuff, you've probably noticed I spend a lot of my time posting jokes and silly stuff, and stuff that inspires you to, stay at least a little bit of a kid. I'm all about that. I think because I had a lot of my sense of childhood robbed from me growing up, that yeah, there's probably a part of me that's trying to rebuild that in some sense. But that's okay. I think it can do the world a world of good if people are given the platform to say it's okay to be silly like that. And I mean, not to the point where you're not being an adult at all. Like I said, pay your bills and take care of what you need to take care of. But like, if you want to be silly, go be silly. Like, the number of people I see say things like, oh, you can't do this by a certain age, or you can't wear this by a certain age, or you're too old for that, or it's like, screw all that, man. Live your life. If it's giving you joy and it's not hurting people, live your damn life. I think there's too much in the world that people start out trying to pursue, but then they run into somebody that's going to shame them for that because it's not what the other person is into. And that's sort of been my stance on however people want to live their lives. If it's not hurting anybody else, let people be. It doesn't have to be your thing. So yeah, if I can help with that, if I can find a way to, feed that adult part of me where I can pay my bills, because that's okay. I think I'm coming back around to one of the points I got distracted on. That's always been an important part of my life, is also being childlike to a certain extent, or not being afraid to indulge in that side, but also being responsible too, having the balance of not being a dead weight on the overall financial ecosystem of the world. I like being able to do things that are beneficial, not only to keeping my bills paid, but also to the world at large, if that's possible. That's always been an important aspect for me is not feeling like I'm dead weight in the world. I want, even with the stuff that's going off in my body right now with, like, you know, for those that are not familiar with, you've probably been at least somewhat made aware of lipedema, which is the fatty tumorous tissue that's hard to break up. Benign tumorous, so you can live with it and not have much of an issue. It does have to be monitored because sometimes those benign tumors can turn on you. But with lymphedema, when I was first diagnosed, the specialist I was working with, the way she described it was, the quickest way I can explain it to you, Angie, is that for whatever reason, the trash guys are not coming to your house anymore. They're coming to everybody else's house in the neighborhood. Your shit is staying on the street. And I was just like, well, that's rude. And basically, it's one of those conditions where they don't know why. They don't know why, at least in, you know, I can't speak for like every type of lymphedema, but at least with congenital lymphedema, they don't know why your body just doesn't want to. It just doesn't take the crap out of your body. So basically with your lymphatic system, it works as, so without getting into like a really heavy science here, in basic layman's terms, your internal organs tend to put off it's basically like your housekeeping system. Your organs will put off these, trying to find my words here, it's basically like the trash fluids and stuff. It's all the materials that your organs decide they don't need. It's what your body purges out when you go to the bathroom and all that kind of stuff. Well, basically what happens with lymphedema is your body just, it's not that it doesn't do it, it just does it so poorly that all of your trash, as it were, gets backed up into your system. So all the excess trash fluids from all of your internal organs, they get trapped up in your lymphatic system, and that's what tends to cause the excess swelling in the body. That's all of the garbage that's supposed to be purged out naturally out of your body. For whatever reason, your lymphatic system is going on strike, and it's like, nah, nope, you can just sit on that. So with lymphedema, there's a bunch of treatments. I heard, I was kind of surprised. I saw a video that an actual doctor said that lymphedema was reversible. And I kind of fell over because I was like, every doctor I've talked to has told me it is absolutely not reversible, that once your lymphatic system is trashed, it's, you know, you just got to learn to live with it to a certain extent. It's treatable, but there's not like a magic pill or surgery or anything that you can just turn it around, to my knowledge. So I don't know what that was about, but yeah, as far as I know, it's not curable, but there are treatments that you can go through. There's like, you know, there's wraps, and there's I forget the actual term for it. If you followed my Instagram for a while, there is one picture I posted, I think a while back, of what I affectionately call my squeeze sack. It's basically this big ass, it looks like a sleeping bag I have to get into multiple times a week. And it has to manually squeeze my body to convince my lymphatic system to push all of the garbage out of my body. So you can do that. Yeah, there are different things you can do. There are some medications, some diuretics that can help a little bit, but in my particular case, they're not used very heavily on my body. But I don't know your case if you have it, so maybe with your doctor you use it. I don't know. but that is one option sometimes. But yeah, there's a bunch of garbage that gets trapped up in the body, and so you have to be mindful of. It's another thing that has to be monitored, because with all that garbage left up in your body, there is risk of it developing into other more serious conditions, because basically your body is trying to poison itself for no good reason. So yeah, even with all of that stuff going on in my body, I still have this drive to be as useful as I can, to not be a burden to people. To, I was telling a friend the other day, a lot of people in my family were pushing me to sign up for disability, and I'm trying to stay away from that as long as I can, as much as I can, because I don't want to go down that road. Years and years ago, my mom had 3 or 4 strokes, I forget now, within the space of a year, and that was sort of the thing that she couldn't go back to normal work after that. Her body was too damaged, so she had to go on disability. And I remember even having that many strokes that quickly together, the disability department still denied her twice, I think, and she had to wait months and months. And I remember, it was when my parents were both still alive, and they were both stressing out monetarily because she couldn't work and she was waiting on this disability money, and they had a little bit of disability money for my dad, but they were struggling to live off of it. And basically the disability department was essentially dicking her around about well, are you really sick though? And I wanted to be like, damn it, she had 3 strokes, what's wrong with you people? And watching her go through that, and how much that stressed her out, I don't want to do that to myself if I can at all avoid it. So God, this has gone on forever. I'm so sorry, guys. I will try to edit this down as much as possible. But that's my thinking behind doing all of this, is maybe we can figure out a way to build a strengthening community here. With me starting with, like I said, I have more ideas around this, but you have to start with step 1. So step 1 of this is I figured I would offer this as a service. If you have a canvas that you really want to see something done with, you don't want to give up on it, but you're just frustrated with it, you can send it to, I guess what I'll call for now, the DP hospital. It's kind of like the teddy bear hospital. I might come up with something else. The canvas clinic, something like that. If you have a canvas that you are really into, but maybe you're frustrated with it and you don't know that you have the patience for it anymore, but you would like it in your collection completed, you can send it to this canvas clinic and I can work on it for you. Or if you want to, if it's something where you want to gift it, or if there's a canvas you like, that say that's another thing. If you want to gift somebody something, but you don't necessarily want to do the diamond painting yourself, but you think it would be a cool gift for somebody, we can do that too. If you want to commission something for your business or something, if there's a canvas you want to do, that you, again, maybe you're not a diamond painter yourself, you like the art form, but maybe you don't have the interest or the time to do it yourself, but maybe you have an idea of something you want to put in your business that's related to your business or something like it. Whatever your idea is, you can run it past me. You can send it to hbhartlife@gmail.com if you just want to give me a rundown of what your situation is, and we can work out something. I'll try to put together some price list graphics for people that are just generally curious about, because you got to start somewhere. I don't really want to go through like the sort of question mark back and forth of like, well, what do you think you want to pay? I feel like in my experience, when I've gone to services for other people, it's a little bit easier on the person if you have a starting point of typically what you would ask for a service, and then you can kind of work from that. It sort of takes the pressure off of both parties. So I'll try to do those sort of like price list graphic kind of things, so somebody has, so you have something to refer to. And I'll list all that on my website, which is listed down below. And there's also a P.O. box that's listed there, simply because it's the internet. I don't want my actual street address just blasted out there for internet randos. If I get to know you after a while, obviously I'll disclose that, my actual street mailing address. But for internet safety for now, I feel like it'd probably be best to go through the P.O. box. So that's kind of my idea, guys, and I figured we can start there, and we can sort of make this sort of symbiotic, is that the word I'm going for? No, where it's like, you help provide work for me and help pay my bills and keep me off disability, and I can provide teaching and testing content for you. And like I said, if you want shout outs for your company, you can let me know. I can do that. We can figure out a system here to start building that community I have in my mind. And I can I have other ideas to add more services and more products down the road, but I gotta start somewhere. I gotta start with some small service at least. So yeah, just thought I'd do I did not mean for this to go on for ages, but yeah, welcome to my first WIP Chat where we talk about this. So yeah, let me know what you think. You can email me down below. My website is down below, and yeah, I guess that's it, guys. I'm gonna wrap this up because good God. But thanks for hanging out. Hope I kept you company tonight. So we'll talk later. Bye, guys.